Lone Rider here, and I wanted to point out something that I think a lot of people don't realize about fixed gear bikes in particular, single-speed bikes in general, and bikes in general. But this is something that in particular applies really a lot to the single-speed and in particular fixed gear category. Frame quality with fixed gears has been going downhill over the years. When I got into cycling, in particular when I got into riding fixed gear bikes, a lot of us didn't even buy track frames because most of them were true track frames, and they were either too expensive or they weren't suited to what we needed. A lot of times we just took an old road frame and hodgepodged it together as a fixed gear. And a lot of those actually rode pretty darn good and rode as good as you needed it to, and there really was no benefit to having a track-specific frame, except it kind of looked neat having the track ends. That was about it. The advent of track bikes that are made with the idea that people are going to use them for casual riding, use them for commuting, use them for running errands, use them for winter training, use them, in other words, on the roadway and for other things besides racing in a velodrome, has led to an advent of track frames that are actually more designed for the regular cyclist, not just the track rider, but somebody who'd be, let's say, just riding a fixed gear on the street. They come drilled for front brakes now. Some of them even come drilled for rear brakes. The geometry is a little different, etc. So generally speaking, these things are pretty neat invention. You don't have to convert an old road frame if you don't want to. You can just go out and buy this is the Raleigh Rush Hour from some years ago. I don't know if they even make this anymore, but that's kind of what I wanted to point out, because I got this secondhand because the person who had it had a custom lugged steel frame built for them, and they transferred all their parts. So I got this frame and form from that person. Now, this particular one, it's just a chromoly frame, nothing special, 4130. The current production bike of this, or at least the last time it was produced, that I remember looking at it, and this is true not just for Raleigh, I shouldn't just pick on them, other brands as well. Last time I checked, a lot of these were just using high tensile steel for the frames. They're basically, the steel is no better quality than what you get on a Kmart bike or something. And that to me is the selling point, right? The frame. You can always upgrade the parts, but the frame is the heart of your bike. It's kind of like the blade on a sword, right? You can change your handle, you can change the grip wrap, you can modify the guard, you can replace the guard. What don't you usually change on a sword? The blade, because that's the heart of the sword. Well, the frame is the heart of your bike. If your frame is for crap, if it's made out of crap metal, if it's made out of heavy clunky steel, if it has no feel to it, then you can put all the nice parts you want on the bike, and it might improve your interface with the bike. If you have a more comfortable seat or better pedals or more appropriate length cranks or whatever. But at the end of the day, the bike's always going to ride like crap because the frame is for crap. And what bothers me is that this never used to be the case. You used to have bikes being made with decent steel in the frames and so on and so forth. And then sometime in the last maybe, let's say, 10 years, people started looking at it and saying, how can we cut costs? And so the vast majority of entry-level fixed gears that you get are no longer, just made with the idea that people are going to use them for something besides for velodrome racing. In other words, they're not just drilled for a front brake or have slightly more relaxed geometry. A lot of them are made out of crap metal. And I have seen a couple that, had problems because of this. The problems can't necessarily be attributed solely to the metallurgy. In one case, for example, a frame rusted through in the chainstay. It was brought into the bike shop for frame repair. The owner basically melted the brazing, pulled out the chainstay, and replaced it with a new one. And that's another thing. A lot of them are going to be welded instead of brazed. So likelihood of being able to even repair something like that, pretty slim. At the end of the day, the question becomes, why are they doing this? Why are they offering people really, really cheap bikes? And the answer, I don't have an answer. The quality's gone downhill, but I don't know why. But I know, if anything, what this is going to do is it may spur people to do what we used to do back in the day, which is just get our hands on older stuff and build it up to suit our taste. The bike industry, the bike manufacturers, by not offering quality fixed gear frames, may ironically be just pushing people into the used market, or the second tier custom market. Not people who are frame builders professionally, but if you've got a friend who's made like 10 frames and you want a fixed gear bike, and I'm looking at all the stock bikes are just using crap metal, high tensile steel and stuff. What do I want to ride a bike like that for? Well, you're probably going to go out and get a nice used frame from somebody, or secondhand frame, or vintage frame, or you're going to have one made, again, maybe not by a top tier builder, but maybe by somebody who builds frames on the side, right? And so it's something to think about, and I wish the bike industry would think about it, because I wish they'd realize they're not doing themselves or us any favors by offering crummy frames on fixed gear bikes. For a lot of people, a fixed gear is just one type of bike they ride, but for some people, it's your entry into cycling. It's the first bike you get. If it rides like crap, you're not going to want to get into cycling, right? So, I don't know. It's like the bike industry took this entire category of frames and just decided they were going to treat them like quality was optional. Hey, we can sell people bikes made with the same, steel they use to put pipes in their house. No, that's not. That's not what you want to make a bike frame out of, right? And or anything that looks or rides like that. And you could say it's, well, they just figured nobody's going to buy these bikes except a handful of youngsters who think they're cool, and then they're going to ride them like once and that's it. Maybe. But there's a lot of us who've been riding fixed gear since back in the day. I mean, I've been riding a fixed gear bike since the mid 1990s, right? So not for nothing. One of the problems these days is the fixed gear frames are not good quality. They're heavier than the frames used to be years ago. They're made with less consideration for the ride quality and for the longevity and for the experience of the customer. And I honestly don't know why that is. But I do know that, if I ever get a new frame, it's either going to be a high-end rather than an entry-level frame, and I'll just have to replace the fork with something that's drilled for a front brake, or it's going to be a custom job. I'll just go to a friend of mine who builds frames or somebody else and have one made, because the quality of frames that they're making nowadays is just not conducive to, is it a bicycle? Yes, but barely. So there you go. This bike rides nice. It's not light, but it has a good ride feel to it, and it's well made. But this was like the last year they made these out of decent materials. Again, a year or so after this bike was made, they started making the same frame out of high tensile steel. So, yeah, bike industry, you got to bring back quality, right? Stop treating fixed gear riders like second-class citizens. I don't know why you're doing this. But you're not doing them any favors, you're not doing you any favors, right? Lone Rider out.